Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another episode of this Piscean Reports. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, as always, I am hoping you guys are having a sensational afternoon. For those of you new to my channel, welcome aboard. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. Alrighty, so I thought I would do a video for you guys today. It's more like I didn't think. It was more like the universe is like, we need you to go ahead and do this one. So I said, okay, I was laying in bed this morning and they were showing me all these things, and it's like, okay, let's go, jotted down a few things and it said, all right, let's do it, So I am probably going to title this, People Only Have the Power That You Give Them. The reason I am telling you guys this, and I am titling this that, is because I wanted to talk about some things that that I had went through. The universe says, you've gone through these things, and we need you to talk about it, but talk about it in a way that's testifying. It's the way of getting you guys to see something and understand something. Okay. I was like, all right, let's go. So I wanted to start with a situation. I talked about this a long time ago. I haven't said anything about it lately, so I'll start there, because I was like, how do you guys want me to do this? Where do you want me to start? And they was like, okay, go here. And then there was this and this and this and this. So here we go. There was a situation. I was at the train station in my area, and I was waiting for my train. This was early on in what I was about to experience, or technically what I was experiencing. It had just started, and I wasn't aware of it at that time. It became more obvious as time went on. So I remember this specifically. There was a young man. There was two young men. Right, I was standing at the platform of the train, and I was looking down. Where the people park and they're milling around and the whole nine. So I'm at the platform and they're down there, and I just happened to look over at this young man. It was a young white boy. It was a young white kid. It was a kid. They were both kids. That was what blew my mind. And so here was this white dude, right? And he was looking at me. And he looked at me, I looked at him, and this black dude said, you see that? They were talking. That's what it was. They started off, they were just talking, and I was watching them kind of interact, and I seen the dude just kind of casually look over at me, and I saw him. And so the black dude then looked over at me to see what he was looking at, and then he looked at him, and he said, you see that lady right there? He said, yeah. He said, if you know what's good for you, you won't say anything to her. You won't talk to her. And he looked at him, and then he looked back up at me, and I looked at him, and he said, why? And then the dude said, if you know what's good for you, you won't say anything to her. And he looked at me again, and I see, everything in his spirit is like, what's wrong? Like, I don't even know this lady. Like, why would you say such a thing? I see it in his face. I see it in his energy. And I'm looking at him with, this sincere face. Like there's nothing. I wasn't threatening or posturing or doing anything. I was just standing there, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, right? And so he looks back at the dude again, and he says, but why? And then he said, if you know what's good for you, you won't say anything to that lady. And he looks at me one more time, and you see everything in his spirit is like it's weird. I see him. Everything that's in him is like that doesn't make any sense. Like, what did she do? He's not giving her a reason why. He didn't say she did this or she did that, she did the other thing. He said nothing. And so everything in him is searching for a reason. Give me a reason why I should not like this lady, why I should not say anything to her, why I shouldn't even acknowledge. You see it in his face, and I'm looking at him, right? And so he looks at me, he said, but why? And then he said, if you know what's good for you, you will not say anything to that lady. You will not, look at her. And with that last one, because the guy almost threatened him, he said, if you know what's good for you, you won't say anything to that lady. And because he was scared, the dude basically damn near threatened him. You know what I mean? And so he looked away from me, and they went back to talking, and I felt that in my spirit, like, wow, I see this young man and who's everything in his spirit is like, why are you asking me to hate someone I don't even know? Like, why are you asking me to do these things? What did she do? What did she say? Like, what happened? And he wouldn't give him anything. He just flat out threatened him, And so basically in that moment, that young man handed his spirit, his power over to this person. And I see that with a lot of people. From that point on, I began to recognize and realize that is what's happening right now. That there are people who literally handed over their power, handed over everything in there about themselves, their spirit, their will. Basically, they handed over their will to someone else. You see what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate, when I was laying in bed this morning, the Most High, my guides, I don't know if it's necessarily the Father or my guides, or bottom line, this is what I was seeing. I was being shown that moment in the Wizard of Oz, and a lot of you guys are very young, and I don't even know if your parents ever had you sit you down and to watch that movie. It was starring Judy Garland and a whole bunch of other people, and most people know it. Those who are older, like they know that's literally like a classic. We grew up seeing that, and I think like every holiday, I forget which holiday it is. Sometimes they show it on Easter. They or they'll show it around some holiday. And it's like that. It's like a tradition almost for some people to, okay, the Wizard of Oz is coming on. They show it so much now, it's not that much anymore, but back then it was a big deal. But so I'm being reminded of the Wizard of Oz, and there's this, and in the movie there's this moment where Judy Garland has her dog in the basket, and they're on their way to see the wizard, and they finally get to that moment where they can see him. And the dog jumps out. Oh, first of all, they come up on the wizard, and it's basically a hologram of this huge green face, and fire is shooting up, and he's threatening, and he's very menacing, and so everybody's scared. They're like, oh my God, the wizard, and he's like, how dare you come to me, and how dare da 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 da, and outwardly you're very intimidated by this, right? This carefully crafted imagery, and they're all scared. But the dog jumps out and takes off behind the curtain, and so Judy, what's her name? And Dorothy jumps out. She goes to run after the dog, and they get behind the curtain, and they see that what was behind the curtain, all of this carefully crafted imagery, is really just this man pulling the strings. He's pulling the strings, and he's manipulating, and he's doing all, he's speaking into this microphone. So they see ultimately the truth, which is that they're not that, he isn't that powerful after all, but they got, because nobody dared to look beyond what was happening, they fell for it. Everybody was like, oh, this is the great and powerful wizard, and da 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 da. And that's what's happening right now. I feel that what the Spirit is saying is it's the same situation. Everybody fell for this carefully crafted, thing. Oh, these people are so powerful, and they're so scary, and oh, we don't want to go against the all-powerful Oz. And in reality, it's just a few people behind the scenes with the, pulling the strings. ultimately, and that's what I spirit said, you need to say that ultimately all these people handed over their power willfully handed over their power to someone who really isn't powerful to begin with. Okay, which is why I say people are only as powerful as you allow them to be. Okay. It's like this, and I had to write both of these down. After the Wizard of Oz, I wanted you guys to know that there are some people who, some of these people gave over their power because they do not want, they didn't like me talking about spirituality. You know, my spirituality was somehow threatening. What do you mean you don't have to get up and go to church every day? What do you mean, you know, you can just, you know, God will show up in your world and in your life and bless you, and you didn't go to church every Sunday like we do. We file in the church every Sunday, and we read the books, and we sing the songs, and we do this. And what do you mean God just shows up in your world and in your life, and all of a sudden, you know, you have all these blessings? And a lot of people are like, that's intimidating, you know, because, you know, it's always been this way. This is what we've been taught. This is what we've been shown. And, you know, this is the right way. And so, you know, me showing up in the world, talking about how God was showing up in my world, in my life, you know, and people are intimidated by that. And so I see those people saying, we've got to, you know, do something about this. The other people were showing up and willfully giving over their power based off of hatred, jealousy, you know. You guys already know about all of the craziness, you know. Someone is so laser focused and so insanely jealous, and so, you know, several people insanely jealous to the point where it affected their mental health, you know. It's crazy. And so because of their jealousy, they wanted to do everything they could to cast me in this negative light, right? Now, I was also asked to speak about Job. And I wanted to know, everybody knows about the story of Job. Those who are Bible people, okay, we'll just say that. Not everybody reads the Bible. Not everybody subscribes to the Bible, and everybody believes in the Bible. But for those of you who are, I guess, of the Christian faith, you know, in the Bible, the whole thing, they know about Job. Job was someone who was blessed and had favor in God's eyes. He had everything, right? And respect. He had wealth. He had, you know, the whole nine. You know, he was blessed. He had everything. Children, he had, you know, wealth and you know, notoriety and standing in the community, right? And so because he had favor in God's eyes, the devil said, you know what, if you took all of that stuff away from Job, he wouldn't stand by you. He wouldn't believe in you, the whole nine. And so the Most High allowed him to do his worst. Okay, let's see, you know, and the devil went at it. And so when they did that, I said, I want to know everything, because I wanted to know. I had to get out my phone and say, what all did they do? You know, I knew that he had lost, you know, the basics of it, you know. So I said, let me see specifically. And so Job had 10 children, right? And he lost his children in a single day. All 10 children in a single day. There was a strong gust of wind, and apparently it came in, the house came in, and it killed all 10 of his children in one day. Devastating. You would think, you know, that surely, you know, the devil was on a mission. I can't even wrap my head around that one. But all of his children, 10 children, were lost in a single day, right? While they were feasting. And it said that he had lost his possessions. He had oxen, sheep, and camels. So he lost all of his livestock. He lost all of his servants. And then it says that he lost all of his other wealth. Like everything. He lost everything. I guess the livestock took ill, and then they all died. And then because he didn't have no money, he couldn't have the servants. He lost the servants, and then ultimately he ended up losing all the money. And yet he still stayed in faith, right? And then ultimately the devil decided to attack his health. Okay, and he ended up with these very painful boils all over his body, from his head to his feet, and you know, that's devastating. I've lost my children, I've lost my livestock, I've lost my wealth, I've lost everything, and now I'm taken ill. And on top of everything else, the devil said, we're going to take away his name, we're going to take away his clout, we're going to take away his favor in the community. And it said that that he suffered from accusations, and friends had accused him of hidden sins, and because that's why he must be losing all that stuff, because he's done all of this, you know, and that's why, you know, he is the way he is, and he deserves it, and all this other kind of stuff. And when I saw that, literally everything, it was like the Spirit said, now do you see? Do you see? And this is why I say to you guys all the time, the more things change, the more things stay the same. You know? And I saw that, you know, I've lost family. You know, they, you know, caused my children to turn away from me. My family literally caused other family members to pull away, to turn away, to, oh, she's doing this and she's doing that and she's this, she's that. You know what I mean? I lost my job. I tried going to, you know, I tried looking for work and I couldn't find any work, and I decided to go out of town and try to start over and start new. And they made sure that people where I had went knew, you know, about me, and said, you know, because of the internet, she's a terrible person. I'll never forget that day that the young man, before I even went out of town, there was a young man, black kid, came into the house. It was one of my kids' friends, and they was like, and they said, and he said, how you doing? I said, hi. And then he said, let me call you by your name. And he said, what's your name again, ma'am? And I said, Miss Miller. And he said, how are you, Miss Miller? And I said, okay, I'm good. And so next thing I know, I even remember hearing people say, before the walls were thin, and I overheard people saying, and say she got 2 children, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, like everything in my spirit said, they're talking about you, they're literally talking about you. Say she got 2, and let them know she got 2 children. So when I went out of town and I landed there, everybody, I remember going through the airport, and I see people all staring at me, and it was very uncomfortable, and bottom line, they made sure that I didn't have nothing there. So I ended up having to come back home feeling defeated and exhausted and agony, you know what I mean? And then I get here, and then I had people, you know, slandering my name. Everybody knows that. You couldn't, if it was anything negative that could be said, it was said. So in every single way, I felt, Job, you lost family, you lost your wealth, you lost your name. People was dragging my name through the mud. You see what I'm saying? Oh, she's this and she's that, and she's got HIV, and she's giving it to people freely, and if it was anything ugly that could be said, it was said. And I thank God that he shielded me from a lot of it, because you know, when you hear people saying, boy, they said some ugly things about you, I thank the Lord that he shielded me from a lot of that, because the little that I did hear was devastating. And when they talk about you know, Job, you know, affecting his, you know, attacking his health, and my mental health was ripped to shreds. Like I didn't think, there was a lot of days where I just did not think I could go on, you know. And was it not for my spirituality and the Most High, you know, saying, okay, it's time to open your eyes, it's time for you to see everything, to see all that was happening, you know. And then to be shown your family has come against you, and they've done this and they've done that and the whole nine, and these people are not your friends, and these people don't love you, and these people, like, the Most High opened my eyes. So and to have all of that happen, I was someone who literally went from falling on her knees and saying, Father, if you don't help me, I'm going to do the unthinkable, to the very next day saying, you know, showing me a way. Hang on just a second, you guys. Yeah, anyway, so I see, the similarities, the Most High was revealing to my mind. See what I'm saying? And what I find most interesting is, in the same way Job never lost his faith, I have gone through the worst and I never lost my faith, because I had spirituality. I had my cards. I can't tell you guys how many times I got the strength card, and this is the universe saying, we need you to be strong at this time, followed up by the Five of Wands. There's people attacking you. There's people coming against you. Some weeks I would see that followed up by the Seven of Wands, saying you're going to have to defend yourself. You're going to have to stand up for yourself. And I had to stand up for myself at work, and I had to stand up for myself online, and then I had to stand up. Do you see what I mean? So I see, because I was so excited, because for me, I know the Most High wanted me to let people know about spirituality, because the Most High said, just like you were out there floundering, like you didn't even know, you were to the point where you didn't even think I existed, and I need you to show other people who are out there. There are so many just like you floundering. They don't have a spiritual connection. They don't have a connection to me. They need it, and we need you to tell them that this is their, not everybody resonates with the church. And the Most High said, this is what I need from you. I need you to show people that I am. Tell them the stories. Show them how I helped you. And so they know that I'm here, that we are, that, and just like they did it for me, they can do it for them. And I did that. You see what I'm saying? Like it's amazing, hold on. It was like this. In the same way they came, the devil came after Job, the devil came after me. I've had, people who are jealous and angry because of my spirituality, and tried to take it away from me, tried to shut it down. Don't let other people know there's another option, that you don't always have to go to church. There's another way, and then you had other people saying, I'm so mad, who does she think she is? Why does God show her favor? Why does God doing this? Why is God doing that? That can't be happening. And they sought to try to tear everything I was saying down. But the Most High wants you guys to pay attention. Pay attention. Okay? I want to say for two reasons. He wants me to tell you guys this. People only have the power you allow them to have. And so some of you willfully gave over your power. You, in essence, handed over your power to the devil. Okay? You fell for it. You fell for the carefully crafted image that made it seem like they were so powerful. People only have the power that you give them. Okay, if 10 people, and this is what I feel, that these people said, we are going to make an example of her, so that other people don't go the spiritual route, so that other people don't, don't see that God is, or so that people see that we're powerful. We have all the power. We have all the clout. Don't listen to her. If you do what she does, you'll experience the same thing. And it's that fear. It's the fear of oh God, I don't want that to happen to me, that got everybody to fall in line. And I'm telling you, you have more power than you know. You could wake up tomorrow and say, I'm good on all of that. I'm over it. I'm done. And they lose all of the power that they had. You actively pulling back your power and saying, I have the power. I get to say who I can and can't like. I get to, I get to see who I want to worship, how I want to worship. I want to know that. I want to experience that. You mean I don't have to go to church every Sunday? You mean I don't have to, there's another way? God will come to me in another way? I'm with that. And they don't want that. Okay? So people only have the power you give them. Understand that. If 10 people tomorrow said, I'm good, I'm over it, they can't come after all 10 people. Imagine 1,000 people saying, I'm not doing this bull crap no more. And what are they going to do? You can't go after 1,000 people. It's only a handful of people. You see what I mean? This is only a hand, it's only a few hands behind the scenes pulling the strings and creating the narratives, and we'll say this and tell everybody that, and woof, woof, make the fire go up, and be more green, be more loud, be more pushy, be more bossy, and ultimately it's all smoke and mirrors. It's just smoke and mirrors. The Most High wants you to see that. Just like in Job's life, Job never lost faith. And because he didn't lose faith, the Most High gave him back twice what he had. Because he showed him, he proved, I don't care what happens to me. I know that God is. I don't know why these things are happening, but I know God is. And he stayed true to his faith, and the Most High blessed him and gave him two times fold. You get what I'm saying? Twice what he had. And I feel like the universe is saying to me, because you never gave up, you never lost faith, you have been put through it, but because you listened to me, the Most High, if it wasn't for the Most High, giving me peace and grace in the eye of the storm, there's no telling where I would have ended up. There's no telling how I would have ended up. I could have ended up in a mental institution. I could have ended up taking, doing the unthinkable. Do you see what I mean? But because I stayed true to my faith, because I never lost faith in God, and I believe with everything in me, the Most High is going to replace everything that was taken from me two times fold, just like he did Job. Because the more things change, the more things stay the same. God is, the Most High is. At the end of the day, whatever you call our higher power, he absolutely is. Sorry, didn't mean to shake it, but he is. And that's what he wanted me to tell you guys. This is what he wants me to do. He wants you guys to pay attention. Like, really pay attention. Look at what happened. Look at how the worst of the worst came at her. I've heard people say, you don't look nothing like what you've been through. And then the Most High revealed to me Daniel and the lions did. Not Daniel, but the three teenagers. I had to write their names down. Let me see. Where is this at? I wrote their names down. What are their names? The three teenagers, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, being thrown into the fire and coming out without the smell of smoke. So when I hear people saying, damn, you don't look like what you've been through, I want to, that's God. That's God. Look at her. God, she been through so much. Look at her. That's God. Daniel being thrown in the lion's den. When he got thrown into the lion's den, that is that thing. This is what I keep telling you guys. They threw Daniel in the lion's den in a way to show their power. If you don't fall in line, if you don't do what we tell you to do, you're going to get this too. You're going to get eaten by lions. And he didn't get eaten by lions. And I got thrown into it. I had people rip me, tear me in every single way that you could be ripped and torn and shredded. And I came out. God said, pay attention. Pay attention. He is. He absolutely is. And I think he wants me to tell you guys, you have more power than you know. Take your power back. Okay? Because after they took Daniel out the lion's den, that king said, you know what? We're going to worship Daniel's God. And I think that is what the Father wants you guys to do. They threw me in there. And I had no one. And yet I came out of it. And God is like, now you see how they ripped this person to shreds. You see how they did everything they could to her. And she comes out without the smell of smoke. Do you see that she did not get eaten? She did not get torn up. She did not get, eaten. Okay? Now, this is what I want you guys to know, that I am. In the same way they showed Daniel, they came out and they said, you know what? We're going to worship, Daniel's God. And I feel like the Most High is like, I want people to say one day, you know what? We're going to worship Chiquita's God, because, man, that's unbelievable to have somebody experience all of that and still come out on the other side, and still come out, in one piece, and still come out in still believing despite everything that's happened, still believing, still singing the praises of his name, still letting other people know and reminding you guys that you have the power. You have the power. Okay? You don't like what's happening, take your power back. I'm not doing it no more. I'm over it. I've seen God's hand in her life. I've seen the Most High in her life. Look at her come out without the smell of smoke. Unbelievable. Still healthy. Still singing. That's God. Yeah. And he wants me to let you guys know that he wants you guys to pay attention. He wants you to see for yourselves that he is. And if he could do this for me, he could do it for you. I've heard people say, you know what? I don't believe in all of that because I'm going through it right now. I want to say this, I want to say two things. One is, it's easy to say, you know what, I believe in God and he didn't show up in my life. He ain't did nothing and this and nothing. If anything, it's the opposite. Did you really, you know what I'm saying? Did you really have a come to God moment? Did you have a come to the Most High moment? Did you ask for him for his help? Did you fall on your knees? Or did you just expect something to happen, like some magical genie? God knows your heart. You can say all day, oh, I believe in the Most High and this and the other thing and hallelujah and all be praised. And if you turn around and go out and do the same thing you always do, you go to church and you sing and you praise and the whole nine, and then you go right back out and you do the same crap you've been doing the day before and the day before that. I'm still going to hate this person. I'm still going to, gossip. I'm still going to do all these ugly things to this person, but I believe in God. God knows your heart. The other thing that I want to say as far as that whole thing goes, and I have been debating on whether or not I would want to say it, because I know, people are going to say, oh, she's just so full of herself and she just thinks and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But I want to say this. There's a lot of people going through it right now. A lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are losing their homes. A lot of people I'm seeing online every day, people talking about how they're being evicted and they're losing their homes and they're doing this and they're doing that and they going through it and give me some money and I need help. And I wonder, is this the same person who went along with what happened? Because, karmic debt builds up. And that bill always comes due. Always comes due. And for a lot of people, maybe their bill is due and they're floundering and they're losing it and they're flipping out and they're looking for help, but they're not going to the one who can help them the most. And even if they do, like I said, the bill is gonna come due. You're going to, what you put out, you get back. And there's some people, they need to kind of look at that, I went through that myself at once upon a time, which is why literally the Father had to fall on my knees and was in tears and saying, if you don't help me, I'm going to do the unthinkable, because I went through it. I let someone convince me that the Most High wasn't. And the minute I agreed and said, okay, fine, you're right, he doesn't exist, my life went straight to hell. And he reminded me, yeah, he exists. And when I found out and when he showed me and they showed me and they started working with me and everything started to change, and then I started seeing all the blessings and the love and the favor, and he said, now I need you to tell people. Let them know. And I did that. I still do it. So, you know, you can say you're sorry, but when the bill is due, you know, I'm just saying. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go. Just know, you guys, he is, and you have power. You have the power. You can hang on to your power. Stand in your truth. If somebody tries to convince you to hand over your power, anything that happens after that is on you. It's on you. And you can either be strong and say, no, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Or you can just hand over all of your power to these carefully orchestrated, you know, wizards behind the scenes pulling all these strings. You can hand over your power, and then everything that happens after that is on you. You know, just saying. I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed the message. I hope you enjoyed the message, because ultimately God does want you to know that he is, and he is. Pay attention. He is. Look. And then I want to say this one last thing. And like I said, the more things change, the more things stay the same. And if I've learned nothing else from everything that I've been through, is that, you know what? You know, and there's some parts of that Bible that does have a little credibility, you know, because these stories, it's like everything you've been through is literally in that book, you know. And I was like, you know, all right, Father, I hear you, you know, I hear you. So, you know, all right. But anyway, so yeah, you guys, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like button. I could say subscribe if you feel like it. That's fine. I don't know. A lot of people always want you to keep going and keep going and keep going, and I only move when the Father says move. So anyway, I love it, you guys. I will talk to you next time on the next video. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.